one of the things we have to be on watch for, especially during this, shall we say, in the post Brexit years, before we do eventually start the process again to rejoin the EU, is almost certainly, without the doubt, that there are going to be a lot, and I mean a lot, of very, very predatory companies and bosses looking at what P&O is doing. Remember, 800 people in one go is a lot of people to just suddenly get rid of, especially without, well, a lot of notice. And make no mistake, these types of companies are watching what the government does. Because if the government lets P&O get away with what it has just done, then this pretty much gives the green light for a load of other companies to do exactly the same things. And we cannot allow that. We should not allow that. And neither should the government. But getting rid of course, workers' rights was a primary goal of Brexit, as we always go back to. The architect, the prime pamphlet, the Bible, of course, was Britannia Unchained. And in its opening remarks, states that British workers are the most, quote, laziest in the world because they are so protected by British rights. Now, remember that. It's got nothing to do with a huge other myriad of problems. No, it's all these workers' faults because they're so protected by those blasted workers' rights. How dare they be so protected? And this is what we've got to watch out for. Now, of course, there is an upside to this, and we'll get into that after we've gone through the article, but we want to go over this because a very well known British brand in certainly the UK, I don't know, obviously in the wider European market, is Fox's Glacier mints. They're quite sort of well known, certainly in the UK, and I don't know how far they are well known outside of that, but they are quite a well-known company in the UK. They're based up in just up the road in York, and looks like they're engaging in some serious fire and rehire practices. So, as always, before we do go jumping into the article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. So, on with this. This comes to us today from the Yorkshire Bylines with the title of Predatory Bosses Feel the Heat at Fox's Glacier Mints. Confectionery workers at Velo Confectionery in Lower Poppleton in York, who make Fox's Glacial Mints and Mint Humbugs and Popples, launched strike action today against the company's decision to fire and rehire them on worse pay and conditions. And again, according to their union, the GMB, the sweet makers have been told that they will be firing and rehired unless they agree to new contracts which reduce not only their holidays and pay. And that is it's a scumbag move, essentially. The action by Velo management follows in the very much footsteps of the recent controversial decision taken by P&O Ferries, where over 800 staff were initially made redundant and then replaced with agency workers at much lower rates of pay and conditions. In response to the decision, the sweet makers are staging at least 2 daily 2-hour walkouts. They have also lobbied the city council in an effort to try and end the company's fire and rehire threat as industrial action continues at the factory. The GBM organizer, Catherine Mitchell, said this: "Fire and rehire is an outdated, abhorrent practice that should be made illegal. It's never acceptable. Velo bosses are trying to impose real-term pay cuts on those loyal workers in the midst of the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. During the strikes, managers haven't allowed striking workers to use the canteen or toilet facilities and have called the police on a lawful picket. We are here to say enough is enough. Support your workers instead of trying to bully them into submission." A Velo Foods statement about this said this: We have engaged in a very constructive conversation with our colleagues as part of the routine annual pay review process. However, a very limited number of employees have made the decision to take industrial action, and the site will continue to operate as normal. For decades, workers' rights have been eroded, and the increasing use of the predatory bosses' fire and rehire tactics is seen to be the inevitable outcome. Fire and rehire is not a new phenomenon, with very high profile cases involving major employers such as British Gas, British Airways, and Weetabix. Last October, the government voted down a trade union rights dismissal and re-engagement bill by Barry Glinder, the MP for North London, a private member's bill that aimed to effectively ban the practice of fire and rehire. But on Monday, the 21st of March, MPs now voted in favour of the opposition day. Voted in favour of the opposition day motion condemning P&O Ferries for their recent action and demanded that the government take action to improve the employment protection for all workers in light of the company's actions. The vote was passed by 211 votes to none, with the government abstaining. Again, showing your values there, not even voting in favour for it, just abstaining. The Labour Party forced the emergency vote in Parliament on the motion, which calls on the UK government to outlaw fire and rehire, being forwarded in an urgent bill to strengthen workers' rights as an Opposition Day motion. The result is not considered legally binding on the government, but it does represent the will of the Parliament. So far, it does not look like the government will take any legislative action to stop fire and rehire. However, Tesco workers recently won a court case, again, against the supermarket's use of fire and rehire tactics. Lawyers do believe that there is an unusual case, that this is an unusual case decided on a very particular set of facts, so employers couldn't see this as a fundamental upheaval of the fire and rehire principles generally, or the right of an employer to exercise a exercise a contractual power, not constitutional one, to give notice to terminate. Unless the law is actually changed, the erosion of workers' rights reversed, this will only effective action against fire and rehire can come from public pressure on MPs and government, as well as action by workers themselves who are indeed threatened by such predatory tactics. And again, I'm very much in support of the workers there at the plant. They should go on strike and and definitely try to stop this. But again, I have absolute sympathy with a lot of workers who are in an awful position of, if I don't accept these new conditions, I could be out of a job. I don't know how long it could be you might be out of a job for. So I have a lot of sympathy for workers who are put in that position and feel that they have no choice but to sign these new contracts. I do have so much sympathy for them because it's not a nice position to be put in. And I think the company knows that they've got a lot of those workers, well, by the short and curlies, so they know that they can at least get a lot of them to sign this. Now, of course, I did say at the beginning of this there would be an upside. Now, I think that in the, shall we say, in the next really couple of years, I think you're going to see a lot more union action. And that will ultimately be a good thing. And as I've said many, many times before, if you are working in the UK and you are not in a union, then it's probably high time you went and joined one, because I think very much workers' rights are on the cutting room table, and the government is just waiting for the right time to be able to, shall we say, take the knife to them. And I highly suspect they could probably do it in the next couple of years. I think the Tories know they are going to lose their majority probably at the next election. So I think we are probably going to see an acceleration of trying to get as many of these awful bills as much as they possibly can passed in this current parliament at warp speed. I think we're probably going to see that. But this also means that, again, workers and unions need to mobilize sooner rather than later. So, just tipping it down the snow outside. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.